Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to this latest edition of RE065, where I take old stories I've narrated and update them to modern audio standards. This particular story is called The Man Who Found Humanity, written by FieserMoep. I don't know how many times I've already told the story. I'm not even sure I'm the best person to do so. I was merely there when it happened, for reasons that are neither noble nor exciting. I was captain of the Kaloon, a fine old Kantari Z3 reclamation hauler. We were out there at the fringe of civilized space when our rays picked up an object. It was clearly traversing an artificial trajectory, but rather slow all things considered. Most likely what we were looking after. Some debris of the golden time, some relic that got adrift, pushed outwards from the inner systems. With our FTL, it was easy to catch them. Finding them was a difficult task. We did not think much of it actually drifting inwards the spiral, but there could have been plenty of reasons. Being caught in a gravity well with a faulty navigational system that just decided to come to life and burn a thruster for half a second. Who cares? We certainly did not. We just saw a way to make good credits. When we got closer and actually got that can into range of our active sensors suite, things got a bit weird, so to say. It was no pattern of ship our systems recognized, and neither was it damaged beyond that point. It even had some nuclear propulsion engine running, as if we were looking at some antiquity from a museum. But no, it was no antiquity. Well, it kind of was. It was called endurance. We only learned of this long after the Union xenolinguists made their breakthrough, but it was an apt name. A name nobody needed to translate, as just a mere glance was all it took to see what it went through. It was old, it was torn and damaged, not as much as you would think, but it certainly wore the marks of age and weariness, and it still worked like a flawless clockwork. I am so thankful that we were cautious at that point. They did not respond to our hails, did not react to our signal, not in a way that we could have noticed. We could have used the cutters and ripped their hull open to reveal its secrets, but I could have never forgiven myself for that. So we synchronized, went into our suits and prepared for a walk in space. To, knock, maybe? We did not get so far though, or we did not have to, as they opened a hatch themselves. And so we met in space, only surrounded by the void. He was alone. They had closed the hatch behind him and his suit looked old, just as his ship. It would have been white at some point, but now it was just gray. His face covered by golden shield. As he approached me, guided by some primitive propulsion system he still managed to utilize in a graceful manner. There he was. There was I. Now I knew that there were people. I knew that they most likely tried to communicate just as we did. I told my comms to look for anything, no matter what, just anything. He raised a hand. I was anxious. I'm not lying, but he just waved it, and then opened his golden shield as to raise a veil. What I saw was a fleshy face, organic to the eye. It had plenty of fur and was just foreign to me. But when I met his eyes with mine, I saw a being that was just as much at home in the void as I. He certainly was not afraid, just exhausted. Relieved, maybe? But then I didn't know how to read their expressions. Neither do I know today, but I just felt it. I like to believe that I did. That was when I found the first human. After that, things went out of my hand. We alerted the Union to our discovery. As it was the law and without much delay, they dispatched the Verona Great Cruiser. It was their policy for new contact with the spacefaring species. A display of power, if you so want, without deploying overwhelming numbers to not be mistaken for a threat. The last time they did this, well, I can't even remember. In the end, it was just comical to witness a technological marvel to be dispatched to deal with that, a can with an attached propulsion system. It turned out fine, though. The cruiser was large enough to shelter the humans, take them in. Not that their vessel was falling apart, far from it, but just so that they could be treated, monitored, and I supposed quarantined. Brought under control, if you so will. Not because we had ill intents, simply to get ahead of the issues if there were any. And then nothing happened for quite a while. Language certainly was the biggest problem, but the Union got rid of that one. So the talks started, and they took a while as well. The story we then learned, though, went around the entire Union. They called themselves human. They had lived on Earth. They had killed their home. To us, this was a known tragedy. There were just so many steps a civilization could fail and doom itself before it reached space, but we decided not to interfere. Within the inner systems, nobody was left that would even qualify for that protection anymore, though, so it did not really concern us on an everyday basis. We just knew the stuff could happen, and apparently, so it did for the humans. But there our expectations, based on observations made centuries ago, proved wrong. This was no doomsday scenario that just happened without escape. They made their own, driven by desperation. They had united, started what they called the Exodus. They banded together, facing certain doom, and launched themselves to the stars. They knew only a tiny fraction could get away, but still, they dedicated everything to it. The Orcs. Ultimately, they had built 7 Orcs, all fundamentally different in approach, to avoid a single flaw within a design to undermine the entire mission. There were no tests run for these. Each one was under the oversight of their former national space agencies and crewed by random yet qualified selections of humans that were God-given for their ethnic differences. And so the greatest undertaking started, and we could only listen in disbelief when we learned about the dimensions of this exodus. For over 1,000 years, they had lived and died within their machines. Generations had passed each other as they maintained their tiny and vulnerable habitats, pushing ever forward to find an end to their journey. The ship had looked like an antiquity to me, but then I realized that I was looking at a technological marvel. No other ship in Union history or older had ever been in service for such a long time, without pause. Endurance. How truly fitting. When they started to trust us, they told us the rough directions the other ships had taken. Of the 7 that launched 1,000 years ago, we found 6, and unique they were. Endurance was a can, nothing else to say about it. But then persistence was a giant swarm of decentralized and horribly inefficient modules that were created simply to negate the impact of a singular catastrophic failure. Or tenacity, a complex of spinning sections and zero-G facilities. After their rescues, we offered them fertile grounds, paradise worlds that had never been settled on before and had been protected by the Union to be conserved. For the humans, though, for the trail they had behind them, we thought it wrong to keep them from a new world. They had destroyed their old one, yes, but they had also earned the right to a world to call home again. But we did not expect. They declined. At first, we thought they'd just gone mad or arrogant to decline such an offer. But then we realized. It was funny, if you ask me, when our xenobiologists researched their language and did so with the curiosity of scientists. Humans don't think much of it as they call themselves humans. Why should they? It's normal for them. But when we researched their tongue, we learned it meant being from the ground, being from the earth. I still marvel. Could they not let Earth pass, forget their mother, replace it with another one? Or did they become what no race really was? Did their ordeal turn them into the only truly void-born species known in the Union? For us, space is just a means to an end. We travel to achieve things, get from one location to another, to interact with foreign nations, to assist the greater good within the Union. But to them, it may just have been home. All they wanted, diligently asked for, was assistance, technology and machinery to get on their own feet. And so we did. We elevated them to our technological levels, but quickly noticed they did not merely adapt, they integrated. They put their own twist on our designs, and we could hardly fault them for it. They had made it through space for 1,000 years. What critique could we offer that was even capable to rival with that feat they managed to perform? Then they asked for asteroids, resources, things that existed in abundance, and so we naturally agreed. We admired them for their spirit, loved to watch their progress, and maybe even condescended them like a pet project of ours. But then it dawned on us. No mere pet would be able to do what they did, and their progress told many stories of their ingenuity, their perseverance, and their power of will. Where they failed, and they often did, they picked up, learned from it, and went on, as if they had to prove themselves to us, as if they reveled in the idea to pay us back for our help, but to also be more than just a curiosity. And so they pulled that off as well. They made their home in space, all of it. Central Station is merely a token of their unity, the seat of the Captain's Council that oversees their patrician houses and elects the Admiralty in times of need. When we think of traveling the stars, we think of humans. The Union trade is in their firm hands, so is most of the private astro mining. They became a member of the Union Senate, and only time will tell where they are going from there. I often get asked how I feel about them. If I had wanted to simply ignore that speck on my senses that was the endurance. I honestly don't know. They deserve their peace, and I understand those that are afraid of their ambitions. In the end, though, I simply don't believe that we could have just avoided humanity if I'd done differently. All I am is being grateful that we met them as friends, offered our aid when they needed it. End of story. I'd quickly like to thank the T5 peeps: Cold War Boomerwaffen, Severin Cerberus, Bushmaster 177, Henry the Red, Caspar Arnholtz, Cold War Boomerwaffen, Elijah Silvercross, Dragzoon WRE, and Severin Cerberus. Thank you very much.